Good afternoon and welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you have joined me today. And this is such a special tea time together today because we are now celebrating the Easter tide. Yesterday was Good Friday and today is Holy Saturday, and tomorrow is Easter Resurrection Day. And what a glorious time of year for all of us. And also the Passover was beginning last Eve, and we actually had a Passover Good Friday event at our home. And it was very meaningful and wonderful. And I went to the Tenebrae service at noon at my Lutheran church in Olympia, and that was absolutely so beautiful. As I walked through the door, the pipe organ was playing "O Sacred Head, Thou Wounded," and that is in the St. John's Passion by Bach. He uses that, and I believe it's also in the St. Matthew's Passion. Today we are playing in the background the St. John's Passion. You know, when Bach was the musician at Leipzig, Germany, he was the chief musician, and he was expected to have a new composition every Sunday for the services. And so the St. John's Passion he created for Good Friday, the Good Friday service there in Leipzig, Germany in the late 1700s, and it was for the noon from 12 to 3, and that's why it's called the Passion. And many believe it is just one of his truly greatest works. Last week we listened to St. Matthew's Passion, which is often played on the Palm Sunday weekend. It means, for the younger children that may not know, each of the stories of Jesus is told in the four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they are all told the same basic, they all correlate, but they're told in a little different flavor. And you know, John was called the favorite disciple of Jesus, John the Beloved. And he writes with such deep, sensitive love and deep loving passion that it is attributed that it is a beloved version of the story of the birth, life, death, resurrection of Christ. Well, I am wearing gloves today, and they're not white. They're little black lace gloves for Easter that are going with my black and white theme for Easter. And I brought a lovely black and white purse that I've used for many years, and it's matching my hat. But I hope it's all right with you. I added a touch of green today because often I'll add a touch of pink, but we are going to have for Easter, I'm going to let my little purse sit right here. It's from London, a Lulu, and I've had this for many years. It's just a vintage repo, but you know, the thing about Easter, spring, and summer, I find that those accessory and clothing items never go out of style. I keep using them for years. I don't like throwing things away. I like to use them and recreate them. Yes. Well, that will be a little beginning for us. But before we have our tea, I want to do something special for Easter. I brought yellow candles, and I'm going to light them. candles are just so truly appropriate for Easter. They go right with the theme. Now, I'll tell you why I chose yellow. Because we're having a lemon theme today. Do you see my bouquet? These are my flowers, and around it I have little lemons. And then over here I have a huge bouquet I'm going to pick up to show you of lemon tree, lemon bush, see? And I just let it sit on the floor, and it's got the wonderful lemon. There's the white little lemon flower that goes with the lemon. So we're going to have a lot of yellow today. Now, if you haven't gotten your tea yet, please pause if you need to, and I'll be waiting for you. Okay. Well, in keeping with our theme, yes, I'm using my little lemon birthday cup that I received this year from a friend. And it's just so beautiful. I didn't realize the lemon tree has these lovely white flowers. And they're just so appropriate for Easter. And I'm going to, let me show you first what I'm using today for our tea. I have a lot of things on the tea cart table today. I am using this wonderful, and I put a little lemon there for fun. This is my wonderful silver set that if you've been with me for a year, this was my first tea talk that we talked about. And it has on top the acorn. And the acorn symbolizes everlasting life. And do you remember that this is the pot? I had saved this for my daughter. It was in a closet, and I took it out, and it needed cleaning last Easter, so I was cleaning it. And in it, I found $41 bills. Do you remember that? How fun. And 40 is such a spiritual number for Easter. You know, there's 40 days of Lent, and then there's 40 days of Easter following on the liturgical calendar. And then with the Passover, you have Moses, 40 years in Egypt, 40 years in the desert, and 40 years leading them out to Canaan. So I found the $41 bills. And then in the other pot, I found a little vial of frankincense from the Holy Land that I had forgotten about. Little holy oil. And so we started the tea talk with that. Now, I'm going to pour out. This is a lovely set, and I'm still going to give it to my daughter. She knows it's here. She moved, their family moved quite a ways to another state, so I have to bring it to her on one of our visits, or she'll have to pick it up. But it's so heavy, I don't know that it could be flying around. Probably wait for a road trip, right? Yeah. Okay, let's try our tea. Oh my goodness, Easter tea, isn't it the best? Easter tea, there's so many memories all of you have of Easter. When you're little, when you're older, everyone knows where they were at Easter when they were little and got their basket. And I didn't bring an Easter basket. I thought this was like it, but for our treats, here they are. They are very royal. I am presenting them on a silver pedestal, and if you can see them, they are lemon bars and macaroons. Macaroons are very popular for Passover because there's no flour. And the lemon is very popular because I think lemon and coconut come as spring blessings. And These are delicious. So, okay, take one. And then I brought, for fun, something that my husband loves. And you probably love them too. And I'm got them in a different dish. I got to hold them like this. They're called the Jordan almonds. And they look like Easter eggs, but they're the sugar-covered almonds. You just have to be careful you don't break a tooth. They can be quite brisk. Well, I also brought on my tea table a special golden egg for you. And this is it's all, those are jewels in there, and it's almost like, it reminds me of what you would see in an Eastern Orthodox church with all of the beautiful mosaic. It's like a gold mosaic, and it's got cobalt blue. And I don't know if it's real. It could be, because you know the Fabergé in France has always made the fabulous eggs that are so valuable and considered so collectible. And that comes from the theme of the Eastern Orthodox Church, which goes all through, well, the head of it is Constantinople, but you know, it goes up through Russia and Ukraine and the Eastern Greece. It's the Greek church. It's when the church split, and they split over something pretty, to them it was major. We look at it as minor, but it was a difference on the date of Easter. They believed Easter should go with one calendar, and the West, Rome, believed that they should stick with the other calendar. And, you know, it's the Gregorian and the Julian calendar. Well, okay. I want to tell you today something. I'm going to start my little talk with a reading, and it's very short. But I am a student of church history, and I feel that this quote sums up the beautiful theme of church history. And it's written by a great man. I love his book. It's Bruce Shelley, and he's a church historian. I think he's still alive. He would be quite old now. This is a book that has been around, and it's very beloved. It's written in this century. But this is what he says. It is so deep. Christianity is the only major religion to have as its central event the humiliation of its God. And then he puts, "Dear dying Lamb, believers sing, thy precious blood shall never lose its power, till all the ransomed church of God be saved to sin no more." And that's how he starts his church history book, that no other religion has ever had at its core its God coming to die for it. It is just quite phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And I view church history as a tapestry. Well, I view it also as a tree. Maybe I should start there. You know, I have drawn a diagram when I teach young children about church history. And actually, it's good for every age. And I divide church history in 10 parts. Maybe I'll bring my tree sometime and show you. But I start with the seed is Christ. And then the roots are the early church, first 3 centuries. The trunk is the Middle Ages. And then it branches out to each Renaissance, Reformation, 1600s. But the tree is a theme that is used throughout the Bible. You know, in the Garden of Eden, it starts with a tree, doesn't it? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life. And then, sadly, when they were put out of the garden because they disobeyed, because of sin, God made a plan, a people, a plan and a purpose to redeem mankind. Redeem means buy back. And the first time we see another tree is, in the Ark of the Covenant, when you have the staff, Aaron's and Moses' staff that grows. It's a dead piece of wood, but it grows a leaf. And that is like a sign that God will take death and turn it into life. Well, then in the middle of all of history, from the garden to Christ is 4,000 years. Well, then in that, when Jesus comes and gives his life, what does he die on? A tree. There's a tree again. And this tree divides history. Everything before the cross is BC, before Christ. Everything after Christ is AD, Anno Domini, which we still use to today. And then we go further, and the end of the Bible is the book of Revelation. And what do we see? Another tree. Several trees. The tree of life, the tree for the healing of the nations, and the hope, and the new home. They lost their garden home, and then all of mankind is seeking for home. In the end, Revelation is the heavenly home. Everything resolves. Everything of true truth has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has a conclusion. And for us, it has a good conclusion. And that's why everyone loves Easter. It's the victorious, it's Resurrection Day, it's new life. And that's why I'm wearing a little bit of green with my black and white. Green is the color of new life. And a dear, dear, young, darling friend, Heather, she's a dear little, one of the tea ladies. And she's a young mother with children. She gave me this green shawl last year for my birthday. And then this year she gave me these wonderful green beads. And they're real. I don't know, they're Kamala but it's so fun. And so I wanted to wear them today. And then I have this cross, and it is so unique. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Eastern Orthodox or if it's an African cross. The early church had all their centers in Northern Africa. You had Alexandria, and you had Samaria, and you had Antioch, and a lot of these places still have vestiges of Christianity, and they have unique crosses. And this is so beautiful, and it's interweaving almost with fleur-de-lis on each tip, and then almost a Celtic. I don't know. I love all the crosses, so I have that. And then I'm wearing my Celtic cross. I always wear that. And then this is really special. This is a necklace that has, I hope you can see, a cross. It's green beads and a cross at the end. And it has a bracelet to match and has a little cross, and then little cross earrings under the loops. So I thought, that is my tea Easter outfit. I'm going to wear this for Easter. New, fresh, green, resurrection, and the crosses. And I just feel we are so rich in our heritage. We have so much. And in my studies, I tell you, I am discovering something new. Every week, every day I read. I discovered something this week that I want to tell you. And it relates to the use of BC and AD in time. We think, well, who came up with that? Well, I found out who did. It was Bede, B-E-D-E, Bede, who wrote the Ecclesiastical History of England in the 800s. He is considered the foremost authority on church history because nothing had been formally written down other than the first few centuries. They had, Eusebius was, and Josephus wrote in the first early part, but Bede was the British historian, and it's because of him that we know so much about St. Patrick. We know so much about St. Columba that we talked about. And I was weaving back, he's from the monastery that, we talked about. Here's Ireland, you have St. Patrick, right? And you had St. Columba born there. He escaped up to Scotland and founded Iona in the islands of the Hebrides. It's still there. Well, then Iona was so powerful. Remember, they copied the scripture in the Book of Kells, and then I discovered too they wrote much poetry, so much they were poets, they were writers, they were speakers, and they memorized the word. They knew so much of it by heart, and they were fast copiers in this gorgeous script. Well, the influence from St. Columba, and that's like 500s to the 600s, was so great. He was asked by the king, Osborne, who he had kept when Osborne was fleeing for his life. He had kept him at Iona, and when he got his kingdom back, he asked Columba to send a missionary to Northumbria, which is northern England in those days. Well, he sent one man that didn't work out. This man was too abrupt and he couldn't bring anybody the love. So he came back, and there was a young man named Adian. He's called the fiery monk, the fiery priest. Adian said he needs to show love to the people and walk with them. So Columba said, "Will you go, Adian?" So Adian went, and he had great success. He had a great ability to make friends. He walked with the people. He found out what their needs were. He met their needs as best he could. And he established a beautiful monastery up really high north, not far from Edinburgh, Scotland, but right north of England there, a little island called Lindisfarne, Lindisfarne, Lindisfarne. Sounds so Norwegian to me. But anyway, out in the sea, but it was so close to the land that 2 times a day you could walk across. So almost kind of like Mudflat Island, kind of like we are in Olympia. We have a lot of mud flats that the tide goes all the way out twice a day, comes all the way back. However, it's boggy and dangerous to walk across in Olympia. It's got maybe quicksand, it's been said, in the middle. Well, so he established this monastery, Adian. Well, that monastery, they were copying the scriptures too. And Bede, the great Bede, he went to Lindisfarne and he studied. And he is the one who became the great historian. So the roots go back. And that's why I was saying at the beginning, I view church history, which is history from the time of Christ to today, basically 2,000 years, as a tapestry. It is so woven and interwoven, like, Columba having Adian, then he teaches the men, and then the other men teach Bede. Bede becomes this great scholar, and there's more. With Bede is Alcuin, the great schoolman that was leading York, who later Charlemagne brought to the continent, and he became establishing of all the schools of the palace. Charlemagne, remember, ended up being Holy Roman Empire. In northern France, there is where his kingdom was. So that spread all over. So from the little island of Iona, the influence. And that's why we live in day-to-day life And it's hard for us to get the big picture, isn't it? We live in a tapestry, and there's dark threads that may be hard days. Then there's bright threads, happy days. But if we faithfully go through, that's why God said faith is the key to overcoming. Faith, hope, and love. We have to have faith, knowing God is with us. We receive His love. We have hope because of that. And because we know He loves us, we love others. And so we may not see the whole picture, but if we're faithful, eventually will emerge a beautiful tapestry. And someday we'll see that tapestry. We'll get the whole picture. And one of my favorite quotes in all of church history, and I think of this almost daily. I give this to you as an Easter gift. It's that powerful. Martin Luther, who went through enormous struggles of finding God's love. He had lived in religious rigidity and was so hard on himself. He couldn't make it. He couldn't find grace, peace, or joy. He was so depressed. And finally, he found the scriptures through his mentor. One of the older priests was so worried about him. He said, "You need to read the scriptures." And when he did, he found Romans that said, "The just shall live by faith." And a light bulb went off, and he found God's love, that it wasn't built on his works, but on faith alone. And the rest is history. He became a wonderful, free, loving Christian. Well, one of his quotes, he has many and they're all worth reading. This is my favorite. "You will have as much laughter as you have faith." Now, that's joy, isn't it? Let's say it again. You will have as much laughter or joy as you have faith. And it is not a blind faith, and it's not faith in faith. It's faith in God, who created us, created you and me for His glory, for His purpose, with a divine design and destiny. He has one goal. It is to reveal His love to us. But He's very polite. Jesus and the Holy Spirit are likened to a dove. He doesn't force Himself on anyone. He gently, lovingly gives a gift. And all we can do is receive. I say sit down on a chair, just like I'm sitting right now on my little settee in my music room, having tea. Relax, open your heart, and allow God to love you. The rest will be history. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Happy, blessed Easter, Resurrection Day. Happy Passover, blessed Passover, deliverance from Egypt and sin. And I discovered one other thing. The meaning of Easter is from a German word, and it means the east. It means the breaking of the dawn. The light is shining. Let go of all darkness and let His light shine upon you. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you next time.